Good afternoon and welcome to the Strategic Planning Committee for today, January 27th. I will start off with introductions. I'm Carla Silvestre, Vice President of the Board. Ms. Evans?
Good afternoon. I'm Shebra Evans, representing District 4.
Ms. Harris?
Lynn Harris, at large.
Ms. Webb?
Lori Christina Webb, staff to the board.
Ms. Stratman?
Hi, Karen Stratman, Montgomery County Public Schools, Chief of Staff.
And I'm Darlene
Ms. Harris.
Darlene Harris, Executive Director, Chief of Staff.
Wonderful. Anyone else joining us today? No? Well, thank you everyone for being here today. This continues our discussion on the strategic planning process. We are in the last months of our current strategic plan, and it's time to put a new plan in place so that we can start working on the plan for the next 3 years. And so the focus of today is going to be a discussion around a plan that we will review and come to agreement with today, and see being carried out over the next few months. So with that, I pass it on to Ms. Stratman for the presentation. Oh, I'm sorry. May I have approval for the agenda for today?
Move approval.
I think Ms. Harris seconded that. Any changes to the meeting summary from the November meeting? Nope. Okay. All right. Now, with that, Ms. Stratman, please continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Silvestre. If we could have the PowerPoint slides brought up, please. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to the board and members of staff. Before we get started, as we move into this conversation about strategic planning, I'm new to this process, I'm new to the district. And so as we get started, I have an ask or request of the three of you, kind of as we talk and then as we move into discussion. When I started this job, Dr. Johnson, whose place I took, he talked a lot to me about my role in the district side of this work. And I have to say that I was always a little bit befuddled and probably amused by the term strategic plan. Coming from the federal government space, there was an oft-used phrase that strategic plans are neither. Much of that sentiment is probably driven by the 4-year administration process in a federal system or any kind of political administration. But one thing that I've noticed here in Montgomery County that I've been really pleasantly surprised by is how in so many cases, unlike other large organizations where strategic plan sits on the shelf, it's actually a part of a lot of our conversations. It's been a whirlwind 3 months, but I've been pleasantly surprised the degree to which we talk about the strategic plans, the goals, and how those goals impact our day-to-day work. And people say it without eye rolls. So it's really been a nice thing. So my question to you as we move into this work, and that I hope you'll indulge us with when we move to the discussion portion, is how each of you believe, you as part of this committee, that both our strategic plan and our process will help to inform the board's larger work, and specifically what you and the larger board need from us as staff to keep the key goals in front of you in terms of check-ins, where we are on them, and any type of course corrections, particularly as we deal with the aspects of all of our moving back to school, additions that might be needed based on mitigating learning loss, supporting our teachers and students' social and emotional well-being, or other factors as we move to reopen schools. So basically, your thoughts when we move to discussion around how we can keep the work usable in nature around strategic planning. Next slide, please. Obviously, we're talking about the creation of the next 3 fiscal year strategic plan. We'll touch on alignment of that plan and our priority work, and we'll talk a little bit about timeline and considerations for this spring and beyond, and a number of the other large work and organizational items we have for the district for this time frame, particularly as we reopen schools. Next slide. Thanks. The 6 goals of our strategic plan, again, oft referred to in our programming and planning discussions at the staff level. And as a result of the board retreat discussion, a 7th strategic plan goal added as a part of this, and again, in direct response to the forced isolation as a result of the pandemic for students and staff since last March, and that verbalized in the form of the recognition of the social and emotional needs of our students and staff, the infusion of trauma-informed practices and supports to meet those social and emotional needs. And again, that was added after the board's retreat discussion in early January. Next slide, please. Purpose of this slide is to juxtapose the area of focus around student need, which is on the graphic on the left. Dr. McKnight introduced this particular graphic to the board last week. And with this, we want to, again, juxtapose the 4 support areas that are set to improve teaching and learning. And as always, our goal to provide a strong academic program. Those 4 areas: focus on learning, accountability, and results, focus on our community engagement, partnerships there, focus on our operations, all across the operations, and focus on human capital and staffing. While the strategic plan goals are the things that the board will always want to ensure we're reaching for, this new framework on the left builds off of the 4 shifts we know are critical in the aftermath of COVID-19, and they're indicated by those 4 aqua circles on that graph. Mitigating learning disruption and learning loss across all of our schools, focus on those schools that are most impacted by poverty, well-being support, but not just for our students, for our staff, and for all of our support staff as well, and the things we do in the digital learning space. We have focused quite a bit at the staffing level around these 4 needs areas of our students and how they fit in with the focus areas in the graph on the right and the way we support these particular issues. We did quite a bit of work on outlining how the work and the work activities of learning and accountability, community work, operations, and human capital fit in to the needs of the students and staff based on the interruption and disruption of COVID-19, while at the same time keeping an eye on equity and excellence for all of our students, what needs to happen in the adult learning space for all of our adults, and what family supports are needed as a running correlation between all of these pieces. And please trust and believe those types of works where we will look at needs and what we're doing operationally and in our schools and how those 2 areas line up. And we'll continue to do that moving forward. Next slide, please. We're going to talk a little bit about the timeline. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Harris to talk about some of those milestones.
Thank you, Ms. Stratman. So with that, we do have a timeline, and it's a lot in a short period of time. So we need to make sure that we're working as efficiently as possible. So with that, you see today's date, just working on initial plans. And also we'll talk a little bit later on about who we should have in the work group for the strategic planning committee. Sometime in March or April, we'll try to convene one of those work groups. March 18th is our next strategic planning committee, and that will just be an update of what we're doing. And then actually supposed to be May 18th will be a final draft of the plan for the strategic planning committee. So by the fall, we'll have a final strategic plan to present to the full board for approval. But there are some things to consider. If you could go to the next slide, please. So the timeline considerations, some of them are being the community engagement for other projects such as the anti-racism and the SRO program input. So that's why we really would like your input when it comes to what community or group stakeholders you would like, such as higher ed. I know Ms. Silvestri has said that. Someone from the business community. We want to make sure that we're getting different people for different community engagements and we're not utilizing the same people. And also another consideration that's very important is the ongoing alignment with the FY22 budget realty. So those are just some of the things we're thinking about along the timeline that we have for the strategic plan for the remainder of this year to get it ready for the FY22-25 budget.
Just a couple of other notes there. Thank you, Dr. Harris. We have begun a number of internal engagement conversations with our principals, teachers, and staff around what we'd like to see moving forward, not just in the supports area for students, but what those principals and teachers have learned in this virtual space. We had a great conversation with some principals early Monday morning around things we've learned. We've heard a lot of feedback where virtual learning isn't working for some of our students, but it was encouraging to hear a lot of places where it was, and we'd like to think about those things as we move forward. Opportunities for students to take classes and courses, not just at their campus, but at other campuses as well, particularly if they're thinking about college admissions and college prep. Tools that teachers have learned to use and have learned to use together. Teachers who had been maybe felt a little more isolated before in their own classrooms actually being able to move into other spaces and happen a little more easily because of technology. Things like parent-teacher PTSA attendance. The way back to school night was virtual for our classrooms, and schools. The registration process. We had a couple of our principals tell us they don't ever want to go back to the old way of registering, that this was much easier for them. So opportunities to work with students one-on-one, and maybe that be in a space that's a little more protected and not so visual for other students. So there were another number of ideas that we talked about and how we can mitigate some of the issues around remote learning moving forward for those students who do come back to in-person classes. The one other piece to mention here in terms of our timeline, as Dr. Harris mentioned, the alignment with the fiscal year 22 budget realities and those of the other years moving forward. I know that this has been a priority for both Ms. Silvestri as well as Ms. Evans, have talked about how can those budget goals better align with what the goals, our strategic plan goals, and to better show how they work together. I think the good news about that we've gotten recently, and we'll hear more about that in board meeting, but tomorrow. But our news is better in terms of budget than we had thought in terms of the monies coming back on the state side. We still have some other things to hear from county, and will there be additional CARES Act money in the new Biden administration? However, the numbers coming back on the state side are much better than we had anticipated. So that might help us and also maybe reduce the amount of pulling back on some of the plans we had for this year and the next going forward. Next slide, please. So with that, we will entertain your questions or anything. I'd like to, if again, indulging me about the conversation, the question I posed at the beginning about what can we do as a staff to help keep the pieces of the strategic plan out front. How, as we are in a year that's been a lot about change and will be a lot about change moving forward as we reopen schools, how can we keep those goals in front of us? And what can we do as a staff to keep all that aligned? How can we help you in that way?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind from my experience being on this committee for 2 years is whatever goals and strategies actually make it to the plan, that they have realistic outcome measures that we can track year after year. I think that was one of the suggestions from Dr. Johnson was it's hard to track it if, oh, we're not meeting them yet. Well, maybe we should be thinking more carefully about what's a realistic goal under normal times, but now especially in COVID times, to meet. It just makes it more real if we feel like we're really working hard to achieve something, whereas if it's so far away, it just makes it less tangible and attainable. But your question is, how can we keep the plan useful to both the board and the system? Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes, I just wanted to say one of the things that came out of the board's retreat was the emphasis that this strategic plan for this 3-year period will have to look at the ways in which the system has been able to ameliorate and moderate the effects of the pandemic on student learning. And so, I know that they had asked for a blanket statement that over this 3-year period that the goals be looked at also through the lens of how have we mitigated student learning loss due to the pandemic. And that actually, when you say how to keep it relevant for the board, I think that really keeps it front and center for the board, that this is of critical importance.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
I was just going to add on to, or be in agreement with Ms. Webb, that the board was really intentional in our retreat on January the 8th that was public to talk about making certain that we prioritized our goals and tied it to the strategic plan, and just really taking a look at if what we have in place is still appropriate for this time. So just wanted to say that it was mentioned about the effects that COVID-19 has had on our school system and what we would do going forward to ensure that we could make adjustments. And we all have said at various points that there are some things that we learned as a result of virtual learning that we want to be able to continue to do. So just working together to always take a look at the plan to make certain that what we're doing continues to align with the mission, goals, and our core values. Without speaking for all my board members, my colleagues, that's what we discussed and seemed like we were all in agreement with on January the 8th. But thank you for the question.
Ms. Harris?
I'd just like to echo, and again, new person on the board, so I'm still figuring out everything. But question and what Ms. Silvestri and Ms. Evans just said, I think one of the things that would be helpful for us all to be working together on are, as we set these strategic goals and then we operationalize them with action steps. This is how we're going to look at trauma-informed practices and learning recovery. If we are all up and down the chain communicating with our parents and our students, but also our staff and our administrators about how we're not going to tell them how to do that work necessarily, but how we want to be in continuous conversation about how they are measuring these things, how they are looking at questions around how we are ameliorating learning loss, how we are benchmarks that we're setting, how we're measuring that, and how we are sharing that at regular intervals. Because I think it does, as Ms. Silvestri said so clearly, if we don't measure it clearly, then we may lose our focus.
Ms. Seabrook?
I also just wanted to say, and I'm sorry, I don't think I introduced myself. So Robin Seabrook, board staff. Also, it seems to me that there is a tie and a connection between what Ms. Webb was saying and what Mrs. Evans was saying about what the board discussed in the retreat, and tied to those focus areas that Ms. Stratman shared on the graph that was on my left. with the different focus areas, and there is a focus on making sure that we mitigate for learning loss. And so there is a real connection between what the district is already looking at and what the board really wants to see going forward in that new goal or new way of looking at the strategic plan. There was also discussion about continuing to reevaluate on an annual basis for that piece.
Yeah, I would also mention that the superintendent's annual review is based, in part at least, on the strategic planning goals. And so I'm not interested in having everything and the kitchen sink as a part of the strategic plan, because it really needs to be focused and strategic. We are going to measure the performance of the superintendent based on this. So we really have to focus on the things that we need the most right now. So don't feel like you have to keep everything there, because this stuff is 4 years old and we're a different, every day we're a different system, but we're in a very different place right now. So I just wanted to say, feel free to trim if necessary. And again, keep us focused and strategic, because we're going to use this to measure the performance of our one employee, the superintendent. Any reactions or questions, Ms. Stratman? You're on mute.
Sorry, my son was leaving and making way too much noise. No, this is really helpful. I think that as we continue the work we're doing at the staff level, it's particularly encouraged by again, what we heard on Friday from a number of our administrators, things that they want to move forward and the plans they have to move forward. As we have, obviously, moving forward this spring, we will have some students learning in classrooms. We have some students learning virtually, and how we bring those two things together. And I think that that's probably where we're going to be have to work the hardest to make sure that when we hand out guidance, the different information that goes out to our school leaders every week, and then in turn they share with their educators, that we're keeping in mind always that not everybody is learning in the same environment, and that's going to change our system, and it will probably change it forever. And I think that we have to keep all of those things kind of in our head, as I think Ms. Harris mentioned. I think all of you have mentioned how that impacts our benchmarks and how that's going to change. We want everyone at those same levels of excellence, same high standards of learning, but they're going to get there in different places, and that's going to be a different place in the district than most districts have ever been before. So I think that that's something we're going to have to keep in mind, and obviously we'll build into this strategic plan, keeping it flexible, firmly rooted in the things, the goals that the board cares about, but flexible enough that as we learn more in this new environment, how do we make those shifts, and what is will be a one-year plan that will move into ultimately a plan that's useful over the next 3 years through fiscal year 25.
Ms. Webb, you had your hand up.
Yes, as a veteran of strategic planning committees past, I just wanted to offer a little bit of practical advice. When you talked about stakeholders, I know Ms. Harris talked about, identifying the stakeholders. It's often hard to get all of the representation that you want on the work group. So you might want to think about it as a tiered approach, where you have a core work group, but then there are folks and groups that you reach out to react to at various stages of the work.
That's a good idea, Ms. Webb. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, in particular with our business community, they're very limited in the time that they have to participate in committee meetings, but I can see them, giving us some time to react, like you say, Ms. Webb, to something that from their perspective. So yeah, I agree.
And I think that the tiering that you're talking about, Lori Christina, will be helpful when we're managing across the communities being involved in the anti-racism audit, them being involved in stakeholder conversations, focus groups that we want to do in the space and the conversation around school resource officers. So we're balancing those kind of three things as we go. So I think you're right. I think the tiered approaches could be helpful.
From a staff perspective, are you envisioning, you put out all your stakeholders and then kind of divide them up into these 3 engagement opportunities? How are you thinking about recruiting for all this?
It's $1 million question. Thank you, Ms. Silvestri. So there's a couple of things. One is, so the anti-racism audit is a little bit out front. We're working with a contractor there. I know you all have been involved in those conversations. Now that's being set up. So they're a little bit out front, and since there are plans in place, we're kind of trying to work around them. I think the other key piece for us here is to really focus on those segments of the kind of education stakeholder world we worry about, that we're most concerned about. You had mentioned higher education. We certainly have representatives from those involved in higher ed, involved in our work. Dr. Smith has conversations with folks in higher ed a lot, and he'll certainly bring them along in the strategic planning process. The business people, as you mentioned, is a tougher piece. And then on the SRO side, it's a little bit, our focus there, I think, needs to be students and parents, which we didn't get enough of in the first round, that first 6 months. We got some, but not as much as we would hope to get. So we want to go a little bit deeper that way. So I think if we kind of segment the stakeholder groups around those places, I think the anti-racism audit is going to go deep across all those areas. But I think if we segment the stakeholders in that way, we can get enough information that we can all use. We're trying not to group the processes because I think that muddles it a little bit. Hey, you're here to talk about the audit plus SRI. That doesn't really work, but we'll try to keep it lined up.
Ms. Harris.
And just building on what you were saying, Ms. Stratman, I think one of the things that we see in our advocate and ally communities and in our student groups is oftentimes we find pockets of people who are kind of hyper-focused on issues, which can help us when we're looking at these kinds of work groups, because we can make very clear the content area, the issue area, the focus, and then we get the people whose very direct interests lie within those parameters on work groups that will be meaningful to them and also the most helpful to the school system. When you're getting expertise from your stakeholders, your customers, that kind of pre-exists people that have already been thinking about the issues and the areas of work.
Well, I think that makes sense. I mean, I think two things come to mind when we talk about, not to make this about school resource officers, but when we talked about the SRO piece, with Ms. Wolf and others were very clear with us. I know several of you on the board about, can we hear from students who've had those experiences? I think that really, as we think about mitigating learning loss, it's the same way. Teachers who've had some wins, some of those in our mental health community who've worked around wraparound services for kids, what successes have they had? What have our hubs found work well with kids, particularly our schools that are most impacted by poverty? So I think you're absolutely right. I think where folks have gone deeper, we need to go deeper too, and we need to build that into whatever we're doing. Thank you for that.
Ms. Sylvester.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, just to add on to Ms. Stratman, I kind of see it like we call it the swim lane timeline. So you know how people have different lanes, and because we have so many different things going on right now, we kind of line it up so that we can get as many different people and not do things at the same time. So for example, the anti-racist audits, doing town halls. So we want to make sure that we're not doing something at the same time as somebody in a town hall that might be interested in something else. And we also want to get people like, Ms. Webb has said, that don't come to the table usually, that will have some input in things that we have, because not everybody wants to talk about the anti-racist audit. Some people don't want to talk about SRO, but somebody might want to talk about the strategic plan. So it's just basically mapping everything out in a lane by lane, to say, okay, where can we make sure that we're not overlapping, that we can make sure to get the information out to anyone. So if somebody wants to do something, they have the opportunity. So we just don't want to mush everything all together.
I like that. What about the time frame? It does, like Dr. Harris, you said, it is pretty aggressive. So you foresee convening a first group in March or April and be done by May with a final draft?
Well, the last, I know, Ms. Stratman, the last meeting is May 18th, so we have to come with something. So we have deadlines to do. Whatever we can't do, we'll come back. So that's why we have other meetings to say if we're on target, if we're not, what we need. But by the end, in fall 2021, we should have something for FY22. I know we're starting to work on that and have been working on the strategic plan. So like anything else, we'll do the best we can with what we have and try to make sure to streamline everything.
And the May date is because we have a existing strategic planning committee on that date?
I think those are just the dates. It had May 8th on there, but it really is May 18th. I think the last day was February 16th, March 18th, and May 18th. I think those are just the dates that were chosen for this year, I think. Robin, am I right?
Okay.
That's right. I mean, there's nothing stopping the committee from, I guess, holding a special meeting if you decide to convene one,
Okay.
or to go into the summer when I know usually we don't hold committee meetings, but if Ms. Silvestri decides to do that because of the work, that's an option.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what my colleagues think, but I want you to do a good process and come out with good outcomes. So if you need a little bit more time, I think I'm flexible. We want to maybe we could have a draft by May and then work over the summer and then have a final draft in the fall. Just don't feel like you have to rush it. Just let's do a good job. Let's have a good outcome and a good process.
I agree.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo what Ms. Silvestri just said, because I think one thing we've all learned in this pandemic is that, I mean, I don't know where physically or geographically all of us are, but we could literally all be on different continents and be meeting right now. So I think, the ability, and if we move to hybrid meetings and things like that, some people being live and together and others being virtual, that's something that we are all experts at right now. Not an obstruction that somebody's going to be out of town or things like that. So,
well, I think that's also again something we started to have conversations here in the district, but really need to be thinking about move forward. I know a number of former colleagues of mine that work in DC. A number of the education entities that we work with all the time. We had Dr. Harris and I had a back and forth with ASCD. They have they're selling their brick and mortar building. They are going to be a virtual organization from here on out. It has a lot of implications. I mean, Washington is an unusual town. I can't imagine we would never have that kind of center space, but I do think it'll make a difference. And I think that in terms of balancing our lives and can we involve more people in these conversations, because we can have a virtual session versus an in-person session. Maybe we do a couple, maybe we do one virtual. I mean, we have a lot more options here. And again, I was encouraged by what our principals said to us that they were able to do around registration, around parent-teacher meetings, parent-teacher conferences that they just never really thought about before. So using Chromebooks in many cases that we provided for them, which is a great use of that Chromebook. So anyway, it was encouraging. And I think that those are the kinds of things we have to kind of keep at play.
Yeah, and I think the reality is that we do have to focus on learning recovery for students that need that. But what you're saying is, to me, sounds like we also have to take advantage of the opportunities that COVID has forced upon us and propel the system forward. And then also think in the future, what is education going to look like in 10 years? And how do we start to work towards that? So present, opportunities, and future. What else do we need to cover, Ms. Stratman?
I don't have any other pieces. Dr. Harris, do you?
Not me.
Once you do have your stakeholder list put together, could you share it with the committee so that we can get a final peek at who's participating, and if someone obvious is missing, we can suggest a name or two? Absolutely.
If you have any names or input, we'll take that too, so we wouldn't have to wait. As Ms. Silvestri, I know you know people in higher ed or somebody, and like you said, if they don't have to do it, if we can have the tiered approach, it could be multiple people to come in at different points of time. So we'll take your input too for anyone that you think will benefit from being on the committee.
And the other thing that we didn't mention was we have formed an internal committee that includes folks from our Office of Student Accountability, staff from teaching and learning at both the elementary and secondary levels. It's obviously the goals cross-reference there. We have somebody involved from our communication shop, and we have someone involved from budgeting, again, to meet the need of comparing our budget priorities with the strategic plan, our project goals with the strategic plan goals, and making sure those are aligned. And as we have more information around the budget moving forward, across the spring, we'll kind of keep all those things in play. But those are the folks we've involved.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
Anything else from my colleagues?
No, I think we covered everything. This was great.
Okay, well, I thank you so much for the work that you have done and will be doing over the next few months. And we look forward to seeing that list of stakeholders and see how the work evolves over the spring. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes our Strategic Planning Committee meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.